Hello, everyone, from me. So I'm Maria Brahmi. I'm the Senior Product Designer in Configure. And today I'm going to present a very exciting piece of work we did for Configure, which is running a design sprint. So I hope I have the time because it's quite a lot of information. So we'll see. I do have 5 extra minutes. So starting with what is a design sprint for the audience that is not familiar, maybe outside this team as well. So the design sprint was developed by Google Ventures. It was a method like a workshop to optimize the product development. It is a 5-day process, which aims at answering critical business questions. So the aim of the sprint is within 5 days to work on a problem, create a solution, create a prototype for that solution, and then test it with customers. This workshop is supposed to happen in situ, so everybody in the room without any technology for 5 days to work collaboratively on the problem and the design solution. In our case, obviously, that was not feasible, so we needed to come up with an alternative for a remote sprint, which I will talk about later, so how we went on about it. So usually all the tasks are synced, and in our case, we decided to do some tasks async. So when to run a design sprint. So this is a copy-paste from Wikipedia, actually. So when launching a new product or service, extending an existing experience, revising the user experience of an existing MVC or MVP, as it's called in other companies, adding new features and functionality, opportunities for improvement of a product, opportunities for improvement of a service, and supporting organization in the transformation. So in our case, it was mostly a strategy and vision direction, which was a result of a couple of things, not many things. So our stage has gone through several changes since I joined. So the configure stage was split into 2 groups, and then a new PM, an engineering manager joined the system group, which was the new group. Then the stage was, the 2 groups were merged again into 1 group, and the old PM moved to create, and the new PM took over the entire group. Also, Tori moved out as the product designer, and Matt as well. So I remained as the single product designer. So the new PM was not really happy with the direction of several of the stages categories, and he wanted a more concrete direction. Also, there were various vision discussions. I have pasted the issues here in case you want to take a look, but I'm not going to go through them now. So one thing to decide before starting even to plan the sprint was what direction we were going to take. So what would the sprint focus be? So the categories of the sprint are auto DevOps, infrastructure as code, Kubernetes management, cluster cost optimization, serverless ChatOps, and runbooks. So the current priority are the 3 top categories. And currently we have a clear direction for auto DevOps and infrastructure as code, while the PM felt that Kubernetes management was not really heading towards the right direction. Also, Kubernetes integration has a relatively low usage, and I've linked here to Periscope data. And also there appear to be some security concerns from the users, so giving us their Kubernetes credentials. So that would impede the adoption of the Kubernetes solution we provide. I don't really have time to explain what Kubernetes is, but it's the hip way, and which is becoming very popular in the industry to manage your infrastructure, so that it's reliable and it scales per usage. And it's a very good thing to adopt, a very good technology to include in our suite. So, and also Kubernetes is in the AWS, in the Google platform. There are various solutions out there. And also it's linked to the configuration, monitoring, and managing of the infrastructure. And there are tons of tools out there to manage your Kubernetes infrastructure, which is what GitLab is trying to solve in the first place. Create one place for all your end-to-end product development. So for these reasons, we decided that the sprint focus would be Kubernetes management. So moving on to planning the sprint. So getting started for the sprint, the first steps was a collaboration between myself and the product manager. After deciding the sprint focus, we had to decide who will participate in the sprint. So the design sprint as a methodology defines that there should be from 4, I think, to 8 or 10 participants, including the facilitator, who in this case was me. And then it would be good to have mixed disciplines, so people from different backgrounds who are knowledgeable about the topic and can bring their insights from different perspectives. A decision maker, who in this case was the product manager, Victor. In other cases, it could be the CEO, somebody who makes decisions for the product. Then a business representative. In our case, it was a solution architect. So this person has direct contact with customers and brings the business knowledge. And in our case, it would be good to have people in similar time zones, which was not the case for this sprint, but it worked out fine. So the next thing to decide is determine when the sprint is going to take place. And in order to decide that, we should make sure there's enough time to prepare the agenda and material that's going to be used during the sprint. Inform the participants in time so that they can clear out their calendar or make time. And make sure there is time also for the participants to prepare any homework, which in our case, since we converted a lot of the sync activities to async, we had, I think, 3 pieces of homework on separate days. So we really needed to plan for that too. The next step was to create an epic where Victor and I started collaborating on the specifics of the sprint. And also it was an opportunity to let the participants know about the sprint, first of all, and then also they could keep track of the activities and get a visibility. So we were quite transparent. So I have linked here the epic to the sprint, which includes also all the issues and materials in case you want to check them out. So the next steps for planning, I've split them into 2 columns here. So I took some tasks on myself and Victor took some other tasks for him to do. So I started by reviewing the past remote workshops that have been done in GitLab. And I found the monitoring team remote off-site very valuable, and especially the feedback issue where I could see what could be improved and what feedback participants gave about the remote off-site. So the main thing I took from there was that long video calls were not really fruitful, and they were tiring people a lot. So this is one of the main reasons I decided to switch some sync activities to async. Then the next thing I did was to refresh my memory for the sprint process. So during the sprint, each day has specific activities. So I took all the activities with the help of Justin as well. And instead of a 5-day sprint, we decided to do a 4-day sprint because some of the tasks would be async. Also, we took all the activities and then decided which day each activity would happen on. And then I started preparing the agenda. so that we could follow then with the creation of the material based on the agenda. Then, excuse me, I had to think about what tools we were going to use for the sprint so that I could let the participants know what they needed to get access to or have in hand for the sprint week. And finally, I added all the information in the epic. I marked them as a work in progress for whatever was not finalized yet. So while I was doing that, Victor was working on inviting the participants. He was responsible for scheduling the meetings in the calendar. Also, the participants asked him to also add the time in their calendars for the homework activities. And finally, Victor collected existing customer feedback and issues that had been created as bugs or improvements so that we could affinitize them and add them to the material of the sprint. So next, preparing the sprint materials. So the first thing I did was create a Google form. I saw this as an opportunity to introduce the participants to the design sprint process and the scope, the ground rules, the agenda, basically, and also the homework that they needed to do. And I also included a questionnaire in the Google form, which would serve as the expert interviews that are supposed to happen in the first day of the sprint. Then Justin helped me create the mural board, which I've added here as a screenshot. And before the sprint started, I affinitized the input from the expert interviews, and I added them in the mural board as the map. Sorry, I cannot go into the details of the sprint because I see I'm already doing really badly with time. Then I created a video so that on day 3 normally, I think, which we did on day 2, there is a solution sketch exercise. So each participant creates a solution through a sketch. And since our participants were quite technical, I thought they might need some help with sketching their solution. So I created this video, I've linked it here. Then GitLab issues. So it's very helpful to have an issue for each sprint day so that we can add their material as well on top of Mural. And also outline the activity for future use or review or visibility. A Google Drive folder where the participants could drop their artifacts. So the sketching exercise, for example, was anonymous. So the facilitator is supposed to upload all the sketches or put them in a board on the actual walls in an actual sprint. So, and then recruiting participants, that's user testing participants request. So at the final day of the sprint, the outcome, so the artifact of the sprint is supposed to be tested. So we needed to recruit users as soon as we knew who the personas we would focus on were, but this was part of the sprint. And a feedback issue so that we could get feedback on the sprint. So the sprint week, very fast. Before the sprint started, the participants had a homework to create lightning talks. So each participant had to create a 5-minute video explaining what their perception of the product is, who their main user they think is, and who the ideal user would be. Then discuss other products or solutions that inspire them or they find relevant to us. And then all the participants would watch each other's videos and write notes in the how might we format and send them to me. So then I added all the how might we's in the mural board, and their next homework task was to vote on the how might we's. So we had a good starting point already in day 1 because all this part of the board was already filled. So when we started the sprint, we reviewed the how might we's and we worked on the map, which came out of the expert interviews And then we collaborated to refine it a bit. And in this stage, I don't know if it's visible. I think it's not. We also focused on which part of the map we're mostly interested in. So in this case, you have discovery, how a user discovers your product or the part of the product, learning how they learn about it, how they use it, and what's their goal. And we unanimously decided that using was the focus part. So following this exercise, everybody had to write their long-term goal. And then that was in the sync session and vote. The decider has the final vote for this. So this is how we decide the sprint goal. Then they went away and they had the exercise of creating the 4-part concept sketching, which they sent to me, and I uploaded for day 2. So when we started day 2, we started with going through, well, with a vote. Each person went through all the sketches and they voted. Then the decider gave the final vote, and this is how the solution concept is decided. And following that, all the participants work on the user test flow. So these are steps towards the decided solutions that a user would take to reach their goal. And finally, based on the user test flow, again, all the participants together created a storyboard. That was day 3 of the workshop, of the sprint. So here we first started with describing the storyboard steps with text, which I then converted into very rough sketches. And then we had another session where everybody gave me feedback on the sketches. So that was very quickly the sprint week. Sprint outcomes, we already have updates to the Kubernetes Management category page. The vision is actually the long-term goal that was decided during the sprint, same as the target user. And the GitLab agent was the idea that came out of the sprint. So this is a great direction for Kubernetes. And it's good that it came out of the team as a whole, so everybody's on board. A storyboard that shows the basic steps for the solution concept, so the basic idea. And we're currently testing the storyboard with users. So learnings and next steps. What worked well, the homework worked really well because we didn't have long conversations during the sync meetings. Everybody was able to give their opinion through videos. So it kind of worked as being in the same room in that sense. And everybody was excited with each other's ideas and insights. Also, we had 2-hour-long sync sessions, but they worked really well because we had specific tasks. We kept the timings and they didn't really drag. So it was very interesting. And also we had timely breaks, which I understand is very important in video calls. Sorry. And what could be improved? There is an open feedback issue. I don't think many people have commented yet. In my opinion, if we had worked on the map better, the sprint would have a better focus because we had a quite broad focus in day 2. I was hoping for more targeted ideas. And the solution concept sketching didn't go well, even though I created the video. Most people were quite reluctant to create sketches for their ideas. So maybe next time I can find a better way to somehow force them to sketch. Next steps, finish the user testing and analyze the results, see how the idea is perceived, and depending on that, plan the upcoming work. I would like to write a blog post for the sprint, and also Justin is aiming to add a design sprint entry to the handbook and create an issue template for it. So if he needs help, I'm willing to help. And special thanks to Justin for helping with facilitating and the sprint preparation, and to all the participants for their awesome participation. And I'm on time. Thank you.